Good afternoon and greetings from India. We are here for our lecture series titled Doing and Writing Ethnography. And our speaker for today's lecture is Dr. Rashmi Upadhyay, who is a migration researcher currently based in Copenhagen, Denmark. She will be sharing with us some of our ethnographic fieldwork experience working among the Nepalese migrants. I must mention that the department feel extremely fortunate to have Dr. Rashmi as a speaker today. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and we welcome you wholeheartedly. I also welcome all my colleagues from the department, Dr. Rajashri, who is the coordinator of the department, Dr. Roy Naksha, Dr. Rajashekharan, and also my warm welcome goes out to all our students and scholars from the department, out of the department, within the university, and probably if we have our participants from outside the department later on. I extend my warm welcome to all of you. Now, let me start by giving a brief overview of what this lecture series is about and its relevance. Well, ethnography, as we must be aware, is a theoretical and methodological tool which is popularly employed by anthropologists. And this is also a tool quite distinct to the discipline. However, in the recent times, this is also a tool which is widely used by scholars from other disciplines like sociology, social work, tribal studies, folkloristics, even language and literature. Basically, all disciplines that concern with understanding society and culture. And of course, there has been a lot of shift in many aspects of society and culture, which makes it inevitable for the discipline to accommodate newer trends that is conducive to the changing complex reality, including the ways of doing and writing ethnography. And as such, this lecture series is thought to be relevant because, so without delay, we will now hand over to our coordinator, Dr. Rajashri, to share her thoughts, after which Dr. Rashmi will take over.
Yeah, we welcome Rashmi Upadhyay for this lecture series. Yeah, from India and from our department and from Central University too. Our department, that folkloristics and tribal studies, established in the year 2016 as one of the teaching and learning and research department at the university. So it's only the central institution at higher education in this Kalyana Karnataka region, offering programs like by merging together of folklore and tribal studies. The department is functional since 2019 with the 2 years postgraduate course. Now this year we are introducing PhD course to this current academic year. So the department vision is to be recognized as one of the premier departments in folk and tribal research and outreach and training at the global platform. And the mission is by providing highest quality of learning opportunities at a global, national, and regional level, and contribute to the advancement of scientific knowledge, to produce human resources of greater competence and employability skills through cross-cultural and cultural sensitive and participant approach in ideal and field or a real life setting, to contribute towards preservation of tangible and intangible knowledge systems within cooperative and comparative and multidisciplinary premise, and to seek collaboration in research and training from reputed institutions within the country and abroad. And we have the students also has the employability in various sectors and in the government and non-governmental and national and international too, and administrative, academic, research. They have a wide scope too. So yeah, with this introduction, I welcome Rashmi Upadhyay to this lecture series. This is one of our more of the department too, conducting lecture series and conferences, seminars, symposium too. Yeah, all other our students and who have joined online, and the Rashmi Upadhyay, I welcome you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon. I would like to thank Dr. Longshibeni and also Dr. Rajeshri for giving me this opportunity to present my work. So I start with the presentation, and the topic of my today's talk is ethnographic field work in the coal mines of Jaintia Hills. So I'll be basically talking about my fieldwork experiences and after my fieldwork, like kind of like my data analysis and what did I get from these experiences. So I am audible, right, to everyone?
Yes, you are, Rashmi.
Yes.
Don't worry.
Okay, let me know if anything, okay?
Sure.
So my study, it focused on the Nepalese migrant workers in the coal mines of Jaintia Hills, Meghalaya, within the framework of risk, remittance, and return to Nepal. And the argument for the thesis was continual return of the Nepalese migrant workers to the coal mines allowed them with the opportunity for a better future, while at the same time exposing them to dangers relating to nature of work, as well violence prevalent in the mining areas. And as we all know, migrants from Nepal, they reside in almost every part of India. And this is because of both the countries have historical and cultural connections. And another reason is the great advantage of migration from Nepal to India is the open border policy, as there is no need for expensive air travels, passports, visas, and there is no restrictions on access to official employment. Methodology, studied population was Nepalese, both temporary and permanent migrants. And site of study was a multi-sited ethnographic field work. They migrated to coal mining sites in Jaintia Hills, Meghalaya, and they migrated from both hills of Bhojpur and plains of Sunsari district in Nepal. And for data collection, I used participant observation, surveys, and schedule, interviews, case studies, field notes, diaries, camera recordings, and all my data, it was kind of analyzed in this software, qualitative software, NVivo. Okay, so what is this multi-sited field work? According to Marcus, to follow the people and to follow the things are the characteristics of multi-sited field work. And as you can see from this chart, I did a multi-sited field work starting from India, like from to Meghalaya, Jaintia Hills, and the sites were Sutunga, Cement, Bazar, Kheriat, and Ladrumbai. Then after that, I went to Nepal to understand this internal migration. And it was, but they first migrated from Bhojpur, which is a hilly region. And then the internal migration from this coal mining, it took place to Sunsari district in this kind of plain region in Nepal, Sunsari district and Bange Bazar. And while for doing this, I actually divided my fieldwork into 3 phases. Like in the first phase, I went to coal mines and I did my pilot survey and census collection. And this helped me to understand this ethnographic profile among these migrant workers and also the migratory zones. Like I was able to trace where they come from in Nepal. So in the second phase, I went to with the workers to Nepal, and then I took their migratory routes. I kind of understood what was kind of embodiment, like a kind of a police harassment or other kind of fears they come across, and for that I kind of analyzed through taking a concept embodiment. I also understood like what return migrants means and who are return migrants and the remittance utilization in Nepal, which is through internal migration. And the third phase was again in coal mines. Here I understood their living and working conditions, and also their coal mine economy. Okay. So fieldwork in the coal mines of Jaintia Hills, my experience as a researcher. First of all, it's a private coal mining area in Meghalaya because Meghalaya comes under the sixth schedule of Indian Constitution, which grants exclusive land rights to the landowners. So landowners are also mine owners. So all the mining is privatized, and mining is done by Jaintia, local people. And so entering the field was a difficult task because I should take permission, and rapport building was another thing again. And again, being a young girl, long-term field stay was rather complex and difficult. My hosts were very reluctant to host me. But I was able to convince my host later. And but throughout the field stay, I neither had a proper room to live to keep my belongings, nor got any permanent field assistant or a guide to assist me. So the first site, Sutunga, where I did most of my field work, was a mixture of temporary and permanent migrant workers. And it was very difficult for me to locate and live with the temporary workers, as most of them are male members and live in the interior jungles away from the law and order. However, I was able to find a place for my stay with the temporary migrant workers after facing a lot of troubles. Now, what are the challenges? Like challenges during field work, it was kind of a constant change in the field sites because they were temporary migrants, and when one coal quarry was empty, they went to another coal quarry. So this constant shift, it was a very difficult task because again and again I had to convince them. Again and again I had to, make them understand that I was just a researcher, and I was not there to harm them. And I had to stay not only in the camps, but also in the shop, kitchen, where same room where these couples shared, and there was neither sanitary facility nor proper water supply. My safety was also at stake as some of the workers would stare at me and pass lewd comments. Even the food, though I paid in a weekly basis, made me sick as I suffered from gastric problems for days afterwards. I became a shopkeeper selling beer and alcohol to the workers. However, with these interviews, observation, and group discussions, it helped me to understand the market run by coal economy, prevalence of illegal medical shops, prostitutions inside the wine shop, and with the involvement of sardars. These sardars are the labor supervisors, and migrant workers and migrants' keen interest in gambling like tir, archery, cards, dice, housey, etc. I was also able to document in detail the history of coal mines, ethnic conflicts between the Nepalese migrant workers and the Jaintias, and also Nepalese working with the organization and their associations and its failure, Nepalese Sada and their risk, child labor, hospitals, and facilities in it. I was actually very fortunate to document the recent ban of coal mines by the NGT, National Green Tribunals. Now let's go to Nepal, and let's talk about my experience traveling the border. Before traveling to Nepal with the migrant workers, I would constantly toss and turn on my bed because of the stress about crossing the border the following day, because it was an international border which I was supposed to cross with the migrant workers. So I actually went in a very fully packed jeep with migrant workers, and inside the jeep, these workers would smoke and drink alcohol and chew tobacco or betel nut from time to time. It was very uncomfortable travel experience as there was smoke everywhere and a very little space to sit. Migrant workers would fear to travel the border because of the violence from policemen and local parties. Now, what is this fear, and what is this kind of they fear and they don't want to travel alone? This is a fear in the border. Now, why? Because this police, they would harass them at every stop, and they demand bribe. In the sense, they demand like money to these workers. Now, from far in the dark, we could see a flash of the torchlight. It was a police checkpost. We stopped, and the policeman asked for the driving license. After the documents proved correct, he did not let us go, but demanded money from the driver. The police told, "Kuch jugaad karo," meaning manage something. This actually reminded me of how Digi ethnographic work on police practices in Indian states. Police deploy a variety of euphemisms for corruptions, one of which is jugaad, which refers to goal-oriented improvisation, especially the use of informal social networks to advance one's interests and corruption by police. But often this activity is readily characterized as corruptions collectively legitimated in everyday practice. So I actually kind of analyzed this and made into a chapter. This travel was very, very fruitful for me. And there was actually no end for their corruption. It was a very troublesome travel the entire night like that, stopping by police in every distance for money. I was tired and dozed off at times, but could not sleep properly as the vehicle was stopped again and again by the police. The usual begging, threatening, asking for money was going on from the time we started off our journey from Meghalaya, and with no surprise, we were again asked for money to enter Nepal in vehicle and non-smoking checking of the luggage, which includes tax, etc. Now, this is the sumo from Meghalaya, and which was now stopped in Kakarbhita. That means that is border, India and Nepal border. This is the border between India and Nepal. So workers, they actually directly book a sumo and they travel in a group, and so that they can avoid troubles. Now again in Nepal, I did my field work in Patlepani, which is in eastern part of Nepal, Bhojpur, Nepal. And why I did this fieldwork was to understand Nepalese migrant workers' remittances and its utilization, and also return to Nepal. We reached after crossing the border, and it was 3 days of hectic journey. The entire journey was the most difficult one, as one has to walk for more than 12 hours through hills and narrow cliffs to reach the village. The village is mostly dominated by Rai ethnic group. Hence, according to their custom, except their community, no one is allowed to enter their kitchen and the living room too, as it was attached to the kitchen. After standing outside their house for hours, I was shown to rest in the cow shed, which were made of hay and bamboo, and no door to lock. Although my presence was welcomed later, in the beginning, the villagers hesitated to talk to me as they took me to be an agent of the Maoist. The other villagers made me the wife of the respondents, which whom I went. They made an issue out of it later. So this is the way. If you see, the roads are very narrow, and I had to walk for 12 hours. I had to hire porters to carry my luggage, and for 12 hours I constantly walked to reach the village and to understand the remittance and return of these migrants. And this was the place where I stayed for a month, and it is a cow shed. And you know, being a young girl coming from India, it was a very, very, very difficult situation for me, and I was kind of in shock. And but then later I kind of managed, and it was a very successful field work. So what did I understand from that is, like, for example, if you see, this is the house structure in Patlepani in village, and after remittances, after the money they earn from the coal mines, they are able to make a concrete house in the plains. And again, if you see the road conditions of the Patlepani, after they go to the coal mine, and from the migration, they kind of move to Bange Bazaar in the plains, and they kind of have a better life. Again, you see this, these are the houses of the coal mine migrant workers in Nepal. And these are all from the earnings from the coal mines. Some of them have opened these travel agencies, and now this girl, she is having her own business. She run her own business. Her father is a sardar in coal mines, and he lived whole of his life in the coal mines. And another thing was the circular migrants. I understood like they are circular migrants, meaning they migrate in the coal mines for 6 months, and for another 6 months they would go to village. Like for example, I met these two in Patlepani, but I was also fortunate to meet them in the coal mines. And again, second generation, like for example, father went to coal mines. Now his son also followed his footstep, and now he earns from the coal mines. Now, my another concept was to understand this embodiment, and I kind of use this approach, embodiment, as a method of data collection. Now, what is this? It means I try to describe the body through the phenomenological notion of embodied experience. It not only awakens my eyes and ears, which provided me with valuable observation, but it was also my bodily experience, which gave me the feel notes, you know. Like, for example, I lived in temporary camps, worked inside the tunnels of the rat holes, crossed the international border between India and Nepal, and walked 12 hours to reach the migrants' home. So everything, all this kind of my body also gave me several data, and I was able to understand that. I also understand, like, you know, how this encountered harassment and violence from the police and local groups. I have also experienced fear after encountering the fire which burned down the whole marketplace, and after effect of this incident has left vivid images in my mind till today. These may be the everyday situations of the Nepalese migrants which they had to face while living and working in the coal mines. In this process of my field work, I have experienced several forms of bodily pain and different levels of fear for many days that followed afterwards. Now, my body offered important field notes on the understanding of violence and fear suffered by the Nepalese migrants in the coal mines. Now, for example, you know, this was the fire which took place in the coal mines. And I tell you, I was so scared with this fire because I was in the field and it took place near me. And this is one example. And another is like, I'll speak about like how this risk is associated with living conditions and how I also experience from my point of view. Like for example, these migrant workers, they lived in these temporary camps, and these camps are very makeshift, as you can also see. They are away from human settlement and away from police administrations, and there is a very high rate of criminal cases like theft, kidnapping, murder, rape, fight. There is poor access to clean water, there is poor health conditions, and there is frequent death. Like for example, this is the water facility, kind of like poor access to clean water. They go to either streams nearby or also near this coal quarry. While fetching this water, there are lots of accidents which take place in day-to-day life. So these are the some of the kind of death which I encountered. She delivered a baby near me, but after 15 days when I went to visit her, her baby was no more. And similarly, there are many other cases of that incidents which took place in coal mines. Risk associated with working conditions. Now, types of works, it's underground, coal cutting, digging, and pulling trolleys overground, like loading of coal, breaking of coal, market camps, camp work, etc. And work environment is very unscientific, lacking in technology, total lack of safety measures to prevent accidents. Workers enter deep holes and work in the underground tunnels, um, uh, known as rat holes, to extract coal. The holes are extremely deep, and sometimes there is a little oxygen for breathing. And cuts and fractures are very common, and accidents and deaths occur due to blasting and caving in of roofs, pillars, and walls of the rat hole mines. Steep, slippery, narrow wooden ladders, box carriers, and cranes, and also due to seepage of water. I can show you from some of the photos which I took place. This is rat hole mining in Meghalaya. It's barely 3 meters, and here workers kind of crawl inside, and that's why it is known as rat hole mining. There are two types of minings. One is horizontal and one is vertical. And it's very dangerous with the very total lack of technology. And some of the injuries which I recorded was this, cuts and fractures, which are very, very common. And these are the kind of young people work there, underground mines. They carry, load, unload the coal, and you can see they can hardly stand up, they crawl down, and they don't have any safety equipments to carry inside. These are some of the accidents which took place. Like, for example, they need to blast a granite to make a hole inside so that they can dig coal. And he actually blasted over into his hands, and now he lost his fingers. Also, sometimes these accidents may take place when these crane box, it falls down and people working down. Sometimes these pillars are weak, and workers work inside this hole. So there are many kinds of accidents which take place, and sometimes these workers, he is working here and it's very slippery. Sometimes they just slip off from here, or when they kind of walk up and down these stairs or wooden ladder. So I come to the conclusion. Aspiration to migrate, I think, is one of the kind of I found out, like, it's their aspiration to migrate to the coal mines because they can earn money from there. They work hard, and after 2 years they kind of able to move themselves from village life to flourishing city life. And also social mobility, because this internal migration, it took place. Like, for example, village migrate to coal mines, and from coal mines they migrate to city. And another thing was education of children, because this was one of the main reason Nepalese migrated, because they wanted to educate their children and also better living standards. So once they move from village life, they are able to have better living standards. They can educate their children in English medium schools and colleges, and also they can send abroad for higher studies. Through this work, it understood that working in risky conditions, surveying, sending remittances, or surviving, and continual return to the coal mines have allowed the migrant workers to be successful with new prospects and opportunities. And I told you, like, they are now business owners, they have big houses, they can rent them, they have shops, they have opened up travel agencies and everything. Now, this goal of the Nepalese migrant range from investing their earnings from the coal mines in household consumption to relocating to the plain areas, which holds brighter prospects in terms of education and better earning. Now, movement from the remote confines of the village to the promising urban areas is seen as progress. So for them, earning is not just earning. It should be progress, like pragriti. Why, when I ask them, why do you go to the coal mines? They say, to progress, to progress. So this progress, I kind of made a chapter out of it, like how they analyze amic term pragriti, and how kind of they think of going to the coal mine is progress for them. And return should not necessarily mean physical return to Nepal, but also can be through images and for memories. Like, for example, when I analyzed this chapter on return, I found out there was like three kinds of return: imagined, or circular, and permanent return. So, and there are many migrant workers who have been permanently living in the coal mines, and they imagine returning to Nepal, and they have been living in the coal mines because they are either married to the ethnic community, or they are just not able to earn money, or they met with an accident, but they have this memory of Nepal, and they imagine going to Nepal one day. So I kind of analyzed this concept of return as well. And for permanent return migrant workers, they have been to Nepal, but of course they have memories of coal mines, and they actually would like to visit coal mine because they think that what they can't earn in Nepal, they can earn in the coal mines. And thank you. This is it for today.
Thanks, Rashmi. As expected, you have delivered really well. And I must say that it's truly enriching to know about the whole process, working in the most difficult circumstances and finally emerging as the enlightened one, and further enlightening us with all that you have managed to gather from the field. You touched upon participant observation, multi-sited fieldwork, which undoubtedly are very significant ethnographic tools in traditional fieldwork, and even more so in contemporary context when scholars are embarking on more challenging kind of works. Unfortunately, we had planned to take our students for fieldwork the last 2 years, but it did not happen because of the pandemic. And we plan to do it in the coming semester, hopefully. And I'm sure your talk is going to prepare our students both theoretically and methodologically. So thanks for that. Having said that, I want to just start this discussion. This discussion will be very brief. I wished our speaker was there with us for a longer period of time, but because some unforeseen urgency came up, so this discussion is going to be very brief. Just two questions I want to pose. This is for the interest of our participants and our students in particular. Firstly, about the concept of embodiment, a tool which made you understand the depth and magnitude of the lived experience. Could you suggest some references? I'm sure this is going to benefit the students. And secondly, because this is a multi-sided fieldwork, it's understandable that it must have been quite exhausting in terms of monetary resources, and also physically quite exhausting. And I'm also assuming that it must have been equally challenging in terms of validating and ensuring the reliability of the data. So how did you manage ensuring validity and reliability of the data? What was the process?
Oh, it was a long process. If I talk about multi-sited fieldwork, because first of all, you know that coal mine, it falls under the 6th schedule of Indian Constitution, and where this land right is exclusively for the people. So I actually started from the department because our Professor Lamin was one of the coal mine owners. So he helped me a lot regarding this, taking permission and rapport building. And doing multi-sited field work, I think for masters I don't suggest that much, but for PhDs and for further research, I think it's very helpful because you will get to understand everything. You can compare from one field site to another field site. And I think in that way, multi-sited fieldwork is not only challenging, but it's also very interesting when you get to know about more about what you want from the data. And secondly, I worked with this concept of embodiment because I thought it was very, very relevant for myself, because I never thought I would do field work in such dangerous kind of sites, because there are I was in the jungle where we kind of made a coal quarry, and there was no police, no administration, no law and order. And I can see like how, like, every day it was this everyday life for these people, but it was very new for me. But I can have I can see I have this bodily pain when I go inside the coal quarry. I also had these scratches everywhere. So I went through this, and this is kind of like understanding how our body, like how this pain itself is giving me a data. Because now I am understanding not only through participant observation, but I'm also understanding through the body, like how this pain or kind of suffering or this emotions. Sometimes I'm very scared to live with the workers. Sometimes I'm very scared to go inside the coal mining area, or walking through the borders, or looking at the police. I was also scared to see this police near me and asking for money, because I was a girl and was traveling with the laborers who did not have even a passport, because India and Nepal, it's an open border, and you kind of can visit this both countries without any documents. Though I had documents, but my workers did not have documents, so I was afraid. And you can find a lot of reference and embodiment, especially in medical anthropology. I think if you go deep into this concept, you will understand like how our body also sometimes gives us field notes or provides us with data.
Okay, any comments and questions from the participants? Very quickly, one or two, and then we'll wind up the session. Okay, so I'm assuming that Rashmi's talk is so persuasive that it did not manage to evoke any comments and query for now. Anyway, thanks Rashmi for making such a wonderful presentation. We are going to have another lecture probably in the next cycle. I'll give you updated about that. And thank you so much for joining us on behalf of the department.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yes,
yeah.
As a tradition, to give it a formal close, I just request my student Shabu to please deliver a vote of thanks to Madam.
And I also thanks our convener of this program who takes efforts and makes this program successful, Long Shubhani ma'am. And my grateful thanks to the various department faculties and our department faculties, sir, Dr. Ravisha sir and Dr. Rashagaran sir. And I grateful thanks to our presence, those who are students and my friends and colleagues from various departments and my places. I thankful all. And once again, I thank you all and thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.